Hey everyone, in this video I'm going to be showing you how to set up your own Power dedicated server. You don't need to have Steam running or even own Power to run a Power dedicated server, and you can actually run the server on a Linux server using Wine and Zedek the Plague Doctor's guide. So let's go ahead and jump right in. I'm going to show you how to set it up on Windows. So just load up a browser tab and just type in Steam CMD download. Go ahead and click that first link and scroll down and just click this link and you'll download the Steam CMD zip file. Go ahead and extract that. Open that folder up, and what we're going to do is we're actually going to copy this. We're going to just copy the name of the file. We're going to copy it right to our root C drive. It's important that you do that because all of our scripts that we're going to be using are going to be pointing to that. And that's pretty much the standard area to copy that file into. So I'm actually going to go grab that really quick. Here's the actual exe file. We're going to put it right into that folder. So we'll have C drive, Steam CMD, and then the Steam CMD exe. So then what we're going to do is we're going to load up a command prompt. And so by the way, Steam CMD is just basically your Steam client here, but in the command prompt form. That allows us to do scripts that we run scripts that allow us to download and update the Power dedicated server, download and update all the workshop items. It just allows us to automate a lot of the processes to get a dedicated server running. So we're going to cd into Steam CMD. So that takes us to the Steam CMD directory, and then we're just going to run Steam CMD for the first time .exe. And so that's going to go ahead and download a bunch of files and extract them for us. And you can actually see some of it starting to build here in that folder. So we'll wait for that to finish. And then it's done. So then you can just type quit, and that will take you out of the Steam CMD prompt. So I think at this point we could just close command prompt down. We're actually kind of done with that. And as you can see, it filled out this entire folder here. So the next thing we want to do is we need to grab these BAT files, which are actually batch files. They're basically scripts that we've written, and we prepared them for you already because they're kind of complicated, but it allows you, again, to automate a lot of this process. So those scripts can be found on the Power Discord under the FAQ section. There's a question, where can I get the .bat files to set up and launch a dedicated server? So I'm going to download the first one. Make sure you say keep. It'll warn you about these because they're BAT files. And I'll keep the second one. And so those are actually in the downloads folder. Yeah. And so the first thing we're going to do is you're probably going to want to save these for later. I'm just going to put them on my desktop for now. And the first thing we're going to do is run setup server.bat. And if you right click and hit edit, you can actually see all the elements of this file. And so we installed the C drive Steam CMD where the exe is. So we want to keep that. You can of course change that, but I recommend just keeping it where it is. This is where it's going to install the server to, which is going to be C drive Power server. And it's defining the mod path where the mods are going to go inside of Power server. So also what you can do here is you can actually add your own mod IDs that you want the server to potentially host. It'll just download and update these every time you run this file. And also, that's pretty much all you have to really worry about here is just really filling out these top parts. You can add new lines for new mods. I wouldn't really mess with these. So really all you're going to be doing is adding new mod IDs that you want to host on the server. And so we're pretty much done with that. All we have to do at this point is we literally just double click it to run it. And as you can see, it starts automating this entire process. So like right now, it's downloading and or updating the dedicated server. And once it's done with that, it's going to go ahead and download and update the mods that we specify, which it's doing right now. So this is a server. That's the first mod it got. It's getting the second mod now. And the third mod, and it's done. So it did all that for us automatically. And the other thing is you can run this anytime you want, and it will actually go in. I'll just do it now. I can run it again. And it will go check for updates. So it'll update the server. It'll update the mods. And that's it. So it's just completely automated every time you just run that file. So if there's any updates to those, every time you run this, it'll grab those automatically, which is really nice. So at this point, it's actually created a C drive power server folder for us. This is the actual power dedicated server. But the first thing we need to do is, there's one last thing we need to do. Even though we told it what mods to download, we've added this one extra step, which is actually for your convenience, where you can actually in here define which mods you actually want to run. So this file is kind of neat. You can actually use double slashes to comment stuff out. So we can just say like, mod 1, and we can just copy this mod into here, and we could say something like mod 2 and copy the second one in. And then what we can do is we could have like mod 3 and paste that in. But let's say we didn't actually really want to run with mod 3 on this server. We could just like comment that line out, and it won't actually load that in the server. So it's just a little bit, it's a nice way for you to configure the mods that your server is going to be using. You can also, if you want, just have a file that looks like this. You don't need to use spaces. You don't need to use comments. You can keep it really simple, just like that as well. So either way, it'll read these in and load those into the server, which just make sure that you have the folders here. And these folders were created because you added them into this setup server.bat file. So let's see. So at this point, we're ready to do what's called port forwarding. So to do that, you have to, one, access your router. Mine so happens to be at 192.168.1.1. I mean, you should know how to access your router if you're setting up a dedicated server. If not, you can kind of look up your router brand and look online of how to get into it. And so in the case of mine being a Linksys, I'm going to go to the security tab. I'm going to go to apps and gaming. I'm actually going to open a port range for this router. I've already opened the necessary port ranges, but I'll kind of show you. We're going to be doing really two ranges. So the first one's going to be 27,000 to 27,100. This is required. You do need these specific ports for now. I'm giving a range because you can basically load up to like 100 dedicated servers on like one computer. We already have that range, so it's not going to let us do it. I'm going to choose UDP and TCP for both, and I'm going to point to my private IP address of this computer. To find that, you can always just load up a command prompt, and you can type ipconfig, and it will tell you what your private IP is here under IPv4 address. So as you can see, it's going to forward these ports to my computer, which is 192.168.1.100. So I'm opening up 27,000 to 27,100, and that's for Steam to be able to communicate with my server and list it. Then we're also going to open up the range 7777 to 7877. Again, it's a range of 100 ports here and 100 ports here, so we can have 100 separate servers running. I already added these, so it's already done for me. I don't have to add these again. So I'm going to go ahead and cancel out. So what that does is it makes sure my router is forwarding those ports, essentially opening up the firewall ports so that other people can connect to my dedicated server. The other thing we're going to need to do is open up the Windows firewall ports. So it's called Windows Defender Firewall. So you just type Windows Defender Firewall, choose Advanced Settings. And what you want to do is go to Inbound Rules, New Rule. You want to choose Port, Next. So you want to start with the TCP port, and it's the same thing. So down here in the ports, you just specify 27,000 to 27,100. You just hit Next, allow the connection, leave all these checked, give it a name. So in this case, you would say Steam TCP. We can't choose both protocols, so we're just going to choose one at a time. I've already added that, so I'm just going to show you how to do the next one. So you do another new rule. Port. Do a UDP this time here, and same range again. So 27,000 to 27,100. Just hit Next, allow the connection, these three things, and then you'd make this one Steam UDP. So then you'll do another one, another new rule, another port, a TCP one, and this time you're going to do the 7777 to 7787 range. Allow the connection, and that. And then in this case, you're going to call it Unreal Engine 4 TCP, and then hit Finish. And then one more new rule, port. This time make it UDP, again, 777 to 7787. And you go through this process again. And then just call this one UE4 UDP. And so what happens is, I've already added those, so I'll show those to you. Let's see. So like here's one. Here's the Steam TCP, 27,000 to 27,100, and the Steam UDP, 27,000, 27,100. And then also this one, the UE4, Unreal Engine 4 TCP in this range, and Unreal Engine 4 in this range. And so by opening this port range here and here, and also, and you can close that out, back in our router, basically your firewall is open and ready to have incoming connections to your dedicated server. So the next thing we're going to want to do is just take a look. I'm going to show you this just in case you want. You can host, multiple dedicated servers on the same computer. So you might have multiple power servers, or you might even have servers from other games. And so you might want to, you can't have two servers running on the same port. So you might want to have power be on different ports within that range. So to do that, you just go to C drive, power server, Destructoid, saved, config, Windows Server, and under Engine INI. So you'll have this. We've included a few of these like overridden values here, and so you can literally change this port 777 to something like 7778 or 9 or whatever you want within that range that we opened up earlier, all the way up to 87. This is the default port for that. This is just for the dedicated server to run on. Same thing with this. You can go anywhere from 27,000 to 27,100. So 8, 9, anything you want. This is the default 27,015. And then this beacon port, same thing. You can go to 15,000, 15,001, 2. We didn't open this. I haven't really needed this port yet, so I'm just having it there just in case for now. But mainly you'll need to change these 2 ports if they're conflicting with like another dedicated server. So that's optional for you. You don't have to do that. But if you do want to, it's in this engine.ini file in this path here. So we're actually ready already to launch a dedicated server. So what we're going to do is we're just going to use the second bat file, this launch server bat file. And if you look in it, you can see how it's laid out, and it's going to basically call this exe file in our power server folder. It's going to open a log window. And so here you can actually change some of these values. So this power mode is the game mode that you're in. It's set by default to CTF. You can make it TDM for team deathmatch, or also LMS for last man standing. You can choose to run it on the LAN or not with a 0 or a 1. You can choose your server name here. You have to use dashes instead of spaces here. Just make sure to do that in between your spaces in the server name. Don't use spaces or it will not read this in correctly. And finally, you can specify the max number of players, up to 8. So anywhere from 1 to 8, or really 2 to 8 players. So you don't really have to modify this right off the bat, but you'll definitely want to eventually change at least the game mode, I would think, and the name of the server. So don't have to edit it. We'll just load one up with the defaults. So I'm just going to run launch server. And so at this point, it's actually, this is the dedicated server running. And so you can close this window in the background. You're not going to see anything here, which is okay, because it's in shipping mode. However, we have provided a runtime log here. So if you go to C drive, C drive power server, destructoid, saved, logs. We have this power log. And this is showing you, let's take a look here and see. Yeah, it's basically showing you that the elements that were passed in. It's showing you that they were processed here, how many workshop items it found. It's showing you that it's loading all of the mods here that you've selected. And finally, it's showing that it's attempting to launch the dedicated server. It successfully launched the server, and it's launching the lobby map. So this is just a way, if you want, for you to check to make sure everything in the code ran correctly. You should ultimately have this successfully launched dedicated server and launching lobby map. If you don't, then something kind of went wrong. It'll probably tell you, or we can figure out what went wrong just from this. So yeah, you won't see anything here. So it's normal to have a black screen. And the last thing we're going to do is just make sure that this server is actually being listed on Steam. So we're going to go to Steam. We're going to go to View, Servers. And at this point, what we can do, there's a couple things we can do to check if the server is running. The first thing we can do is go to Favorites, and we can just do Add a Server. And we can grab our IP address. So you can just go to like Google, type in like my IP address. So I can grab my IP address. I can put it in here, and I can use a colon and then the port number that I chose for Steam from that config file, which was 27015 by default. And I can just hit find games at this address, and boom, there we go. It actually pops up there. We're not really going to add this to our favorites. This is just a quick way to test to make sure that the server's actually broadcasting, which it is. And then the other thing you want to do is you want to go to your actual internet tab. This is what everybody wants. You'll be probably here at first. You won't have the filters open, so it'll just start loading all of the dedicated servers listed on Steam. And so what you want to do is let these load for a little bit. And then you could just go to change filters, go to game, choose power, and it will actually show you all the power dedicated servers. And that's actually ours right there. So server name here. And at this point, you're actually completely done. If someone wants to connect to this, they can just load power, go to find games, click dedicated servers, and this will pop up and they can connect to your dedicated server. Anybody can, and you guys can all play. So thank you very much, and I hope this helps. And please come to our Discord if you have any questions, and I'll be there to help you. Thanks.